Hello. Um, Welcome to a quick video here. I'm going to introduce one of our friends of the channel, Rob. Rob has shared some of his cards with us and some memorabilia. You saw a couple of videos of me unboxing those items. A lot of fun. Thanks a lot, Rob. And Rob is going to share some of his collecting stories with us, starting with kind of how he and I met, if you will, online through email and so forth. So take it away, Rob.
All right, thank you, Mr. Waxpack Gods, and really love your videos and emails. And I don't even know exactly how I stumbled on it the first time. I'm pretty sure I must have found it through YouTube, but regardless, I'm just really thrilled to be on your emails, and I look forward to them every weekend. And I started, responding. I wasn't sure if this, was something that you would respond back, and you did it instantly. And I think we connected on this. We're a few years apart in age, so I probably started collecting baseball cards, let's say 20 years before you did, but we still both love it.
Absolutely.
So what I want to share today, I think, is kind of fun because it's the kind of the things that I think about in my early baseball card collecting that align to a lot of the things that your emails and videos have done. So I would start off by saying my favorite player and everything about baseball to me really centers around Willie McCovey. So I grew up here in the Bay Area, born back east, but grew up here. I'm a 6'4" left-handed first baseman who was really good in softball, not so good in baseball. Willie McCovey's my hero. Love Mays, Marichal, those guys. So I started rooting for the Giants as a kid, and of course for Willie McCovey, and was crushed when he was traded to the Padres, and then thrilled again in college when he came back. So there are a couple cards I've shared, just of the many I have. I don't think I ever got a Willie McCovey card in a pack of cards, but I did end up, as I got older, finding him everywhere and buying everyone I could find. So he's kind of he's my hero. But my first story is really called the Hurd as in Hurd. I went to school with a guy named Kevin Hurd, 3 older brothers. And unlike most older siblings, they were really nice guys. Compared to a lot of the older brothers want to beat you up, but not these guys. Really into baseball. They used to play Stratomatic, if you ever heard of that or played that. They collected cards. And you'll see a picture of a bunch of cards, and everyone in that picture is a Hall of Famer, except for one. But that's just a small sample of what happened one day when I went over to see Kevin, and we were looking at his brother's baseball cards in a box that you could have maybe bought a suit in. And there were hundreds and hundreds of cards. They weren't organized in any way. And I was looking at them, and I think Bruce, who is the next oldest, said, "Now, if you want any of those, help yourself. Those are all doubles, extras." And I was like, nope, help yourself. So I don't know, there might be a couple hundred of my cards came from that day. And if you look at that picture, I mean, I don't have to tell you who's there. I mean, they're there. Frank Robinson and Mays, Mantle, Tremsky. I mean, gosh, I mean, these cards, some of these are as old as, I mean, they came out like in 57, 58. I certainly wasn't buying baseball cards at age 2. So the one I'll point out and see if you have any comments or questions is, why do I have Don Gross, who's the Pirates guy with the great circle around the yellow border? Why would I put him in with a list of Hall of Famers when he is a pitcher shown batting? A good pitcher. The reason I did that is behind him, the pictures that year were taken at Seal Stadium, which is where the Giants played their first 2 seasons and where the San Francisco Seals played in the Pacific Coast League for many, many years. And I happen to have gotten lucky enough. I have 2 seats from that stadium down in the basement. They're set up where all my wine and other fun stuff is. And I thought I'd add that because it's a great picture of the stand there in San Francisco.
Wow, that is awesome. So did you see some games there in that stadium?
I did not, because they moved to Candlestick Park in '61 and we moved to California in '62.
Okay.
One of my goals in life is to shake hands with as many people who said they were there. You know, kind of like if
Right.
someone had met, you name it, and or met somebody, and I'll talk to people when I lived in San Francisco. I lived in North Beach, which, did you ever go to Seal Stadium? Oh yeah, I went all the time. Hands with them and say, okay, well, at least somebody, because they tore it down after that, and I know where it was.
Ah,
Bar across the street called the Double Play, but it's long gone. But wow, what a way to start your baseball card life, with this level of cards just landing in your lap.
no kidding. No kidding. That manager's dream card was always one of my dream cards, as a young collector. I just was mesmerized by that every time I'd see a picture of it. Still am. This is
I
awesome.
mean, the two of the three great center fielders of the
Yep.
era, and there they are clearly at an all-star game, because this is the year before they faced each other in the World Series. Billy Williams, rookie card. Frank Robinson, obviously you're from your Reds.
Yep.
What an amazing player. Yastrzemski in the classic holding three bats. I love that.
That's a great shot.
Joe Gordon was the manager of the Kansas City A's at the time of the card. He's one of those guys who got in the Hall of Fame probably because he was a Yankee. He was good, but there's better. Not picking on him. And of course, Hank Aaron and Orlando Cepeda, the Baby Bull. That's that. The herd. And just as an update, we discussed this on email. I connected with Kevin and two of his three brothers this past spring, and we went to spring training in Scottsdale and saw the last games that had fans in them. Kevin, is writing a book on no-hitters that I'm helping him with, and I'll be sharing more with you as I learn more about how that book's coming along. But he's been wanting to write this book his whole life, and he's finally, kind of doing it, and I'm helping him.
Great. Can't wait to hear more about that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Awesome. The second one, the second little fun story it's called another Dennis Menke card, and I feel a little bad about this story title now because he just passed away this month.
Did he really? I didn't hear that.
Baseball Reference. Yeah, I just saw that he had passed. But it's kind of a two-for story, and it's nothing against Dennis Menke. But in the days before color TV, and when the game of the week was just, you might see the Yankees and the Dodgers almost every week, I didn't know what uniforms looked like in color unless it was baseball cards. So I included a couple of pictures of how colorful and fun baseball cards were, and imagine too if you hadn't seen any of these teams. So one of them is they're all Kansas City A's. Three of them are the same year. One of them is Tony La Russa, who was a very poor hitting infielder. But if you see that one, you'll see yellow and white, black, orange. Charlie Finley was doing anything possible to get fans in the stadium, but I wouldn't have known this if I hadn't been able to find cards like this that had the great pictures of it. The second one along those lines would be your Cincinnati Reds. So here's, I've got Pete Rose and Tony Perez, Joe Nuxhall, Bill Henry, Joey J. And you got red hat, you got a white hat, you got stripes,
Love them. Yeah.
You got Mr. Red, you got the mustached red guy, and you got the Reds. Very colorful, exciting. I think pitchers were the best cards because when they're in the windup, you see the whole uniform. He rose a kid. Then there's one more before I get to Dennis Menke, and that one has three Cleveland Indians and three of the Houston Astros, but also they were the Colt 45. So you see Vic Power, Jose Askew, and Sudden Sam McDowell in various Indians uniforms, and I love the backgrounds. Vic Power is definitely at Yankee Stadium. You can see Yankee Stadium. And then the Colts are surrounding a rookie, Joe Morgan, when they were the Astros, and the 45s, and there's a Colt on the uniform. Can't do that anymore.
Right.
When you started collecting, did you already, from TV or anything, neither of us were, it wasn't video, it wasn't internet, Did you have a good idea what uniforms look like, or did baseball cards help with that for you?
Yeah, baseball cards definitely helped with that for me. I think my mom bought me cards before I started collecting or watching the game, so I had, probably a little bit of a notion of what I was going to see when I started to actually see some games. So the cards were it, definitely.
Cool. Well, if you go to the other one that has the guys with no hats, you can't see the uniform. This is the Dennis Menke, and I certainly feel badly picking on Dennis Menke, but there was really two things. One is, what was cool about getting the cards with the uniforms was totally not fun when you got one of these.
Yep.
You can't see, you might be able to guess, but there's nothing, not even a hat. And apparently back in those days, they took 2 pictures of a lot of players and were ready to use the one with the uniform and the hat if they hadn't been traded, and the one without if they were traded, things like that. So a couple of these guys, I looked up the stats, and these cards show them on a new team. So they don't have a picture yet in their new uniform, but it was very disappointing to get cards like this, and there's a lot of them. This group of guys, really Dennis Menke is the best player amongst this by quite a bit. The reason I said, oh, not another Dennis Menke, is not because just the card was boring, but I didn't know when I first started buying cards that they were issued in series. I just really didn't get that. I was, 6 years old.
Sure.
If I had 25 cents and could buy 5 packs of baseball cards or whatever it were, or maybe 50 cents for 5, I ran off and bought them. And then I'm out of money. So I might get 3 Dennis Menkes in one purchase and wondering, why am I getting so many Dennis Menkes? It wasn't until later when I realized, oh, I see. They come out in different series. Here's the checklist. So if I want to kind of guarantee I don't get 3 Dennis Menkes or 3 Dan Osinskis, I better spread my money out over the course of the summer. Learn the lesson the hard way there. I was able to trade a few of the Dennis Menkes, and also we used to put them with with clothespins in the back of our bikes, and they made a kind of a motorcycle sound.
Nice. Yeah, awesome.
What about when you were buying? Did you buy the packs as a kid, or?
Yes, absolutely. Bought by the packs as a kid. They were, I think they were 30 cents. Yeah, so this was 83, 84. I think they bumped up to 35 and 40 cents for wax packs. So yeah, that's the way I got them. And as I really got into it, I'd try to buy the whole box. Depending on what kind of money I could scrape together. So that was
when that started in the 80s, I remember going and buying the whole series. And what was great about it is obviously the whole series. And as you've pointed out in a number of your videos, they would put out rookies and they put out traded, and you could, but if you go online now, and I check all kinds of auction things for fun. I mean, some of those boxes of 89 to the 90s, there must have been a flood. I mean, you can get the whole series, for $10.
I know.
Even with a rookie card in there.
Yep. That's one of the great parts about, the so-called junk wax, I think, is that you can go back now as an adult and get all the stuff you wanted as a kid, and it's pretty cheap. So I kind of enjoy that.
Yeah, I totally agree. I have to admit that I was thrilled to share some of my thinning my herd of cards and sending them to you, but I went out and bought a whole bunch of 70s football cards that mint, which made them a lot cheaper. Right. I just want to have them. I want to look at the guys that I saw when I was in school and stuff, and it's kind of fun. Like you, I read the backs of them, and I love the cards when I was growing up, and you read the back, and I'll pick one of those guys like Jim Campbell, that catcher who played for 2 seasons. Jim led the Eastern League in strikeouts in 1961. There's always some little.
That's right.
So my last story is about the worst trade ever made. The first picture for that is the group picture of 6 slugging first basemen, because I was, as a first baseman myself, loved all the guys who played first base. And you can see Dick Stewart, Dr. Strangeglove,
Yes.
worst fielding first baseman in history. Joe Pepitone, who was supposed to be the second coming of, Mickey Mantle in the next generation, and he flamed out, and he played for the Cubs. Gordy Coleman, I don't know if you know him. He's played for the Reds in the late 50s, 60s. Good player, good hitter. I love that action card. Was he stretching? Both he and Pepitone. Klazuski, one of the great cards and great pictures of all time, when he was the guy who decided to cut off the sleeves of his wool jersey during the summer with his guns.
Yep.
And Big Clue had a couple of just monster seasons at Crosley Field, and was a good fielding first baseman and a good overall hitter. Marvelous Marv Thornberry, more famous for playing for the '62 Mets, and Ed Kranepool, who played for many years. So I loved first basemen so much that I would collect first baseman cards if I could find them. And the only guy I didn't have at one point that I really wanted was Norm Cash. And Norm Cash was the first baseman for the Tigers, including the '68 team. I would have been 12 years old or 11 years old, and they beat the Cardinals in that World Series. And he had a huge year in 1961. He was the MVP, and it turns out he had a huge year for a reason. He corked his bat. And he hit 361, and he was a lifetime 270 hitter. So I said, I got to get a Norm Cash. And I was hanging out with a friend of mine down the street, and he had a Norm Cash. And I said, I'd like to trade for it. And I'm not blaming him because I made the trade, but if you pull up that picture, I made the trade. And the Giants were known as making some of the worst real trades in history. Right? Yeah. George Foster, Dennis Cepeda, Willie Mays, everybody. So I traded, obviously this card, I not only traded my really good condition Willie Mays 64 tops, I kept the one that I wrote on this card. So I traded Willie Mays, I did have a double here, for Norm Cash, and that's not a good trade. I still have that card. That's the Norm Cash card I traded for. So to me, it's pretty valuable because
it is, yes,
the greatest hitter of all time.
That's right. You gave up a lot, right, to get that card.
That's right. So that's kind of how we did trade, like you discussed in one of your last videos. I never felt I got jobbed. This was my choice to trade Mays, but the trading part as a kid and sharing and looking at cards was really a lot of fun. And I know you've done a ton of that too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that was great fun. That was one of my earliest memories of the hobby was, trading on the playground. I think the teachers eventually cut us off from doing that. They didn't really like the commerce piece of it, but we did it for a while. So I admire your artwork there on the Maze card too.
I didn't totally ruin it, but I did circle you after. Yeah, I have a bunch of cards that I wrote numbers on, and I don't know why I did it. But because they're my cards and they'll never go anywhere, I don't care. But I don't even know why I did it. But
do the numbers correspond to anything?
Pardon?
What do the numbers correspond to? Yeah,
I can't figure it out. If it's some secret code, I don't know. I know. I know I had trouble with math here in California in the '60s. They taught us this so-called new math.
Mm-hmm.
I got all screwed up, and my mom helped me. And one of the ways I learned numbers was to calculate batting averages and earned run averages. And
yep.
Mom said, well, if that's going to help you with math, do it.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. The earned run average is a little more complex than the batting average. You got to get that.
So I couldn't pass a math test, but I could do earned run averages. So that
you get the important stuff, That's
right. Absolutely.
Oh, these are great stories, Rob. So
thank you.
What are you collecting these days? What are your goals, or do you have, certain collections going on?
Well, I think what I did recently, I retired. I was able to fortunately retire now about a year and a half ago. So part of retirement has been to scan family photos and get everything organized. And because my parents moved away when I graduated from college, they said, if you want your stuff, take it, and I did. So I have a Matchbox cars and the toys and the cards.
Nice.
and I'm very lucky to have them. So I sort of, with the cards per se, wanted to organize them and kind of just focus on the things I really wanted. And so I had bought a few other series, later 90s stuff, and I gave a lot of that away to godsons and stuff, because to them that was the guys they were seeing, play with kids. And now I have this binders all organized by team, by year of card, and alphabetical. And it's just fun to go through it like I did to pull these cards. I just went through and said, I think these are the ones that would be best for the story. I don't have really anything that I need to add to this collection. I think I'm just enjoying it.
Awesome.
Kind of branched out a little bit with some football cards, but I'm not trying to replicate a big collection.
Gotcha. Well, that's good. I mean, you're at a place where you can enjoy what you have. That's the whole point of the hobby, is to have fun with it and stoke those memories. That's
what about
time.
you? Are you? Is the size of your collection as big as the fact that you are the wax pack god? I mean,
it's pretty big. I would say, I don't have everything that I talk about or want to have. Don't necessarily have any specific collecting goals right now. I need to work on organization, and as you have done already. So that would probably be my goal, would be to kind of get it back in order. This is Wax Pack Guys has been helping me haul it around for 20 odd years. So she's a good sport about it.
Well, I love the fact that she's involved in your videos. She sounds great on video, and yeah, you're a working man. I mean, I just, like I said, I was able to retire, and it's amazing what you can do. And
well, congratulations on your retirement too.
That's very fortunate. Very fortunate to be able to do that. And so I'm
awesome.
Of course, in the COVID era, there's not doing the travel we hope to do again, and worried about all of our neighbors and everybody and their jobs, and so I'm not complaining, but I have a lot of time at home. So
yes. Well, those are great stories. And so you're working on a book with your childhood collecting friend, is that right?
Kevin, yeah.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah. Well, when we got together for spring training, I hadn't seen him in many, many years, and he had a wallet that I swear to God, if you put that wallet in your back pocket and sat down, you'd get a bad back. I mean, it was just packed with stuff. And I go, Kevin, what is in your wallet? And he goes, just scraps of paper and notes and stuff I want to do in my book. I said, you got to get on that. I mean, first you're going to hurt yourself.
Right.
And second of all, it's time, he's the same age, so I'm 63. So it's like, I know you may not have all the time in the world, but anyway, I feel good that I kind of helped spur him on.
Yeah.
And he's what he's done is he's taken what he considers to be 40 so of the most interesting no-hitters for a variety of reasons. Best pitcher, best catcher, worst catcher, all kinds of different things, some statistical and some anecdotal. And he's putting together a little story on each of those games, and we're trying to figure out what things we're allowed to put in, links to this or that, and how much information. And I think, I don't think he's going to be a bestseller, but I know he'll be thrilled to be able to actually do it. He's had this idea for 20 some years.
Oh, that's really neat. Yeah, that's pretty cool that you, like you said, are able to kind of spur him to action and to participate in it, and the whole story, you guys reconnecting and all of it, and your timing was impeccable, making it to spring training just in the nick of time. So that's great.
Yeah, we literally I flew out of there, shook hands or gave him a hug and said goodbye. He flew back to Texas. I flew to here. And that next day they canceled it. Thank you very much for this opportunity to be part of your.
Yeah. Thank you, Rob, for everything. It's been great. And I'm sure we'll be hearing more from you, especially as that book comes along.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll make sure I snare you when it's done. I'll snare you a signed copy.
Oh, that'll be great. That'll be perfect.